We have a manifesto. We could give it to you guys to digitize, and then you could just upload it.
No comment on that one, boys.
Okay, guys, listen up. Huh? Marcus, you scared the bejesus out of me, man. Why you gotta be creeping?
About episode 1, I believe it was, actually it was episode 7 of season 1, where Norm McDonald plays the pigeon, has a game like that he can't pay off.
Oh, right.
So I was just curious, since Norm's had some of those issues in real life that he's very public about. I just
Right.
didn't know if that was his inspiration or if that was your guys' idea that you took that.
It was, had nothing, yeah, it was not, I didn't even know Norm gambled. And then I think that was one, I think that could have been, there was going to be any reason why Pigeon had lost money and owed money to some like mob guy. That thing kept changing and changing and changing. But it is very funny that Norm's like, and he loves poker and all that stuff.
It's a funny coincidence.
But it's also funny is I don't know anything about gambling, and so like I get all the terms wrong. So even like you want the dialogue to sound sort of authentic, and like if you don't know jack shit about gambling, you just look like an idiot if it says like I put $1,000 on the Cincinnati Reds to win. I don't know. So like I did ask Norm if all the dialogue made sense, and I remember he was properly disdainful about the whole thing. He was like, yeah.
It is interesting. I wonder how people wrote before the internet. Because so much we just like, I don't know anything about that. Let's look it up.
Yeah.
But I don't know
you
how.
You could ride your bike to the library.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think the answer is that the rest of us didn't know it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Make it up. Make it up.
If I can follow up with a question.
Sure.
I know all of you guys have a background with Looney Tunes. Even, even Tyson does. I think there was an incident at a Looney Tunes convention where he was parodied.
Oh, wow.
So, how did you guys come together on that? Did you know each other beforehand? And how much of that has bled into what you're doing with
Rachel and Larry and I performed in the Groundlings together. So we were all improv performers. I had done a couple of Adult Swim shows with Peter Girardi, worked on a couple of Adult Swim shows, really shitty ones. And then Peter took a job as an executive at Warner Brothers. And then we got brought in. Were you there for the roundtable?
I was not there for the roundtable.
We got brought in at some point. I guess Peter just brought me in. And anyway, it was like, we want to reboot the Looney Tunes. What do you guys think? And it was like, it's hard to figure out. And then everyone's like, oh, you should just do with the old classics. But then they tell you they can't hit each other. They can't. So it's pointless. You're really screwed no matter what you do. But
our
Larry
first idea was we were going to make a sketch show with the Looney Tunes characters, and we thought, let's all do it. It'll be the easiest job ever. We'll just use our old Groundling sketches and not have to do anything.
And change so we literally the person to Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, we just kind of played Office for a while. Like, we don't have to do anything. We'll just use our old sketches. And then we didn't do that
because they hated it.
Yeah.
They were worried that like people wouldn't accept Bugs Bunny or somebody as like a reporter in one sketch and then have him be something else. So then we turned it into that.
Yeah, so it became this kind of a like family sitcom show, and we all come from a sketch background, and it was a very fortunate, it was a lucky thing because none of us were really qualified to write a real a sitcom kind of a show.
I'd never written on a sitcom. I'd written on Robot Chicken, like sketch, but not.
It was a way that we were able to kind of learn the format and learn how to do it without much notes. It was like it was kind of an under the radar way
to get good at
to learn how to do it.
To write an ABC story and have them come together at the end.
And now as a writing team, we're
we work well together.
Really well together, yeah, and we're.
But it's funny. It's because like our Groundlings training and that world of improv comes up in our writing, even in both places, which is like because when you're on stage with no props, no costumes or anything, you have to make kind of a big deal out of small things and have a big emotional reaction. And a lot of comedy writers who don't have that background, the thing that's supposedly funny is the premise, the very idea. And that's really not how we operate. So what is different is like even on this show, which seems high concept, there's a ghost and a whatever the hell pigeon, a talking pigeon. We still have the comedy is about like, why haven't you gotten the air conditioning fixed? I can't stand being in this car. It's so fucking, and having a person have a big reaction, an emotional reaction to something real in our lives is where our kind of comedy writing comes from. And I think all that stuff oddly makes Mike funnier because it's grounded in reality. I think like when it gets too out there and it's just about ideas, Mike Tyson doesn't, you're kind of robbing him of what's so funny. Like I remember thinking like the thing that's funniest to me is imagining Mike sitting at one of these tables and like somebody asked the wrong question. Like he's not an actor selling something. He's Mike Tyson. So like he could get mad. He might like, and it's like the idea of people being in his world that have to like deal with that. It's just very funny to me. Like I can only imagine what you go to the movies with him and somebody fucking knocks into him. You suddenly got a situation on your hands. Mm-hmm. Right. It's like, right. It's like that's what we wanted to get in the show. Is like find a way to still not just make it like a cartoon where it's not real. Have it feel a little real.
Yeah, I think like season 2, it occurred to us, wow, like Mike in his life, I mean, Mike's a celebrity. Like he walks down the street, he's not like us.
He's a bigger celebrity than anyone.
Yeah, so it's like we work that in. It's like, well, let's make it real.
Yeah.
It's a real world.
Because he can't go anywhere that someone doesn't go, can I take a picture?
Yeah.
And it's everywhere. Like we put that in the show.
Yeah.
Like, and he does. He's like so nice, you know.
He does it, yeah.
He does it. And you're just like, how does he do it?
I can only imagine what the pitch session for this thing must have been like.
We got involved after it was already a little bit going. They had already developed it a tiny bit, and I remember thinking like, oh boy, I can't imagine this working. But then the casting of it, because Jim Rash is another person we were all in Groundlings together with, and Rachel. So like then it had a more feminine energy, the show, because I think at first I don't know if Andrew Dice Clay was going to do it but it was a very male show and it had a very male energy. Like I think if you were a woman you would just be like you would want no part of it. And I think we have, Larry and I both, I mean it's two men sitting here, but we work with Rachel because we kind of have female energy too as writers. So it's like we like the relationship stuff. We think it's funny. So it's like it's not so male driven, you know. And I think that makes Mike also. I think it makes the whole show more likable to have him humanized with some like stuff that's not just action comedy.
Yeah, because Hugh, I think Hugh should get credit for he made the show kind of what it is.
Thanks, Larry. I'm glad someone said it on the record. But otherwise, that message might not be that clearly stated.
But he asked Rachel and I to come in and at the beginning, kind of help out, or in season 1, like, let's all write an episode.
Was it like about the 5th episode?
Yeah, and it was like, oh, Jesus, I don't know how to do this. Like, what? There's an adventure, there's a mystery. I don't know anything about that. But then it became clear to us that it's not really about that. It's about the characters and the relationships and
because we have like a press thing here that Warner Brothers wrote. Someone at Warner Brothers wrote, and it says this show is Scooby-Doo meets the A-Team.
Right.
And it's just like, what the fuck is that? It is not. Like no one, and like I think they kept thinking like, oh, you should parody Scooby-Doo, and it's like, why would anyone parody Scooby-Doo? Like, first of all, it's a show for children. Like, what are you gonna make fun of it? It's for children, for Christ's sake. Like, if you think something's dumb about it, it's for goddamn children. But even then, it's just like, it's a comedy. It doesn't really, I don't think it's so genre-oriented. I do think, like, it's nice that it looks like Hanna-Barbera stuff. I like that stuff. I still have a memory of enjoying Saturday morning cartoons. But aside from the look, I don't know that there's anything about it that is remotely like a kid's cartoon or
like Looney Tunes. We were never fans of Looney Tunes before we started writing on it.
It's just sacrilege.
And
everyone hated it.
Like I was never
and they thought we fucked it up.
Yeah, like I was never a Scooby-Doo fan. I was more like Archie comics and not the.
I liked all the superhero crap, but I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's weird to now as an adult. Like, I don't know how anyone does that as an adult, but work on those things. You had a question in there somewhere about it.
Was the Hanna-Barbera art style a choice that you guys made, or was that already kind of part of it?
No, that was that was what Warner Brothers brings to the table, like, and it is great. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
What continues to be one of your biggest challenges in the writing, or how do you overcome that? Is it hard to come up with different mysteries and keep that element?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's the 11 minutes. That's an odd format, I find. I find it like, at times I think it's great, but I think it's, unfortunately, it's just as hard to write a new, full idea with a story with a beginning, a middle, and end at 11 minutes as it is. It's easier to do a 22-minute.
Than an 11.
So, it's...
Yeah, I mean, we'll get
we'll
like,
see. Maybe everyone will get bored. Maybe it sucks after a while.
We'll frequently get like, a script is, maybe 15 pages or something, and we'll get to we'll be like, oh shit, we're on page 11, and the mystery has not even happened yet.
No one's even talked about it yet.
We're still arguing about, dust in the kitchen that someone didn't clean.
Is there any time where you're writing for Mike and you're like, oh, we shouldn't
put it in there? Yeah. I will not give you any specific, but as you can imagine, there's about 70,000 times where you say, "Oh no, wait, you couldn't make that joke."
You can't do
that. But I like writing for him. He's like the superpower. I mean, I think the show's genuinely funny. You have Norm Macdonald, you have Jim Rash. They when they record together, it's legitimately funny to me. I mean, but the secret weapon is that man. I mean, he's like. Because I think there's a million retired athletes that are famous, that could have been given a show, and they're like cool, or they're like worried about their reputation. He does not care. He kind of throws himself into it like he's just getting into acting, and he's happy to have an acting job. And like he'll act. The other day I was in a record with him, and I kind of needed him to cry. And his crying is the funniest thing. And I like listen to 45 seconds or a minute, and he's crying, and it sounds so authentic. It does not sound like someone like going that kind of act. I don't know. Like he throws himself into it fully, and he's very trusting of us to think that we're not going to make him look like an asshole, and that he's gonna. I mean, because he's the lead in a comedy, so that means he's the idiot half the time. But you have to throw yourself into that. You can't just kind of be like, I'm afraid of being made to look bad or look dumb. It's like he's impulsive. We play him as a guy who, like, he might have the right idea, but half the time he acts and reacts so fast that he's got the wrong, he doesn't have enough information, and he's already doing something. That's sort of like the running joke, is just like, which is part of him, but, probably not all of him.
Well, Hugh said that he trusts us, but now, I mean, we also really trust him. Like, I think in season 2, it's, it used to be maybe it's like, well, let's not give him a huge speech, because we don't really, can he do it, can he not? And now it's like, oh, let's give him a full speech. Like, we trust him.
Yeah.
I remember when I first heard a recording with him, I was like, oh, shit, he reminded me of, like, Tracy Morgan on 30 Rock.
Oh.
It was like that kind of timing, and that it's like,
it's like
wow.
unusual.
It like sticks out as like, that's really funny.
So he was comfortable like from the start with doing this kind of format?
I think he was. I think he was. Yeah. What was your?
Did you have a question?
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, fight or flight. And then he said, I'm flighting. Which I think that was written. I don't think but he thought it was funny.
It's hilarious.
And then when he saw it, and he saw, like, because he saw it, there's like a man at the elevator, and then Mike pushes him, and he's like, get the fuck out of the way. He sounds so funny. And just that little part of him, I think that's the funniest thing, is like most of these shows, you don't have someone, even if you had the funniest person in the world, you have Will Ferrell in the lead. Will Ferrell getting mad is very funny, for sure. But there's some element to imagining in this cartoon, like we had him get out and he's like yelling at a woman in a parking lot. And it's like, it's scary. It's like, he knows what the fuck he's going to... And it's so great. It's like, it adds something to the comedy, I think, so much. Like,